Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us in another of our APPI Focus on ARV Learn by Doing. This one is going to have as its topic, we always have a key topic. This one will be Become a Precog Professional, which I believe is very important for our community for the long term. So here is the outline for what we'll be doing today. We will start out with a tutorial, actually a little bit more detailed than I've done in the past because it fits in with being a Precog professional, especially for the newbies. And then we will go into becoming a Precog professional, what that involves, and I am going to give all the details, including the compensation schedule and what it takes to qualify. And then, as usual, we will get into, there's someone's mic is open, Krista's, let me close that. We will get into doing a feedback for the prediction we did a month ago, and then we will do a new prediction for a month in the future. So that's the plan for today. Okay, so first let's do ARV, Associative Remote Viewing, and the first look we'll do is in linear time. Let me close Donna. In linear time, and that basically starts with what really is a remote viewing session. Now, for ARV, you may not want to do a 30-page remote viewing session. Generally, they're 1 or 2, sometimes 3 pages, but they are true remote viewing sessions where the tasking is to describe and sketch your feedback target. And we will have a coordinate or a target reference number in here, but standard remote viewing. And this is when you remote view the target and create your transcript of the one and only target that you will see and experience during your feedback session. So the feedback session then occurs sometime in the future. Here's the feedback session. And in many ways, even though you know now what the target is, you're looking at it, you have your transcript with you, it turns out to be very important to take the point of view that you're doing the same thing. You're describing and sketching your feedback target. Of course, now you have all the information, and we'll be talking more about that. So this is when you see the one and only feedback target, and you have the truth in front of you. And remote viewing, associative remote viewing is all about entangling these two sessions. The information from here is somehow shared back with your remote viewing session. Okay, so that's true of remote viewing. What makes associative remote viewing different is that we have a special kind of analysis and judging of the transcript. So here, all you have available to you is the transcript. But here is where you essentially make an investment decision. Now, for financials, and here we are doing binary ARV. So for the financials, it turns out we'll always be predicting either an up or a down. Now, we use stops or limits, and we can talk about that later, but the key is it's binary and up or down from some starting point with stops or limits. Now, there are 2 possible targets because we're doing binary ARV with two choices. A down, by the way, is really not up. People sometimes ask, what if the price is exactly the same? That's actually a down, but that's very rare. Now, here's the key. There are two possible targets. One is associated with up. Notice the word associated. The other is associated with down. Two separate targets. We choose these to be as different as we can. We have 800 pre-selected ones, but two possible. A key word here is possible. If the actual outcome of the price movement of the stock or other financial is up, then you will see the possible target associated with up. If it's down, you'll see the possible target associated with down. That is always the case. You know the case. This is what makes this work. So when you describe your correct target, the one and only target, a judge sitting here says, oh my gosh, look how well you described that. And that's associated with the up target, for example. Then I can actually make an investment in the up direction. If it's really closely associated with the down, then you can make a trade with the down target. Really, it's as straightforward and as simple as that. Now, I'm going to go over this again, but this is the essence of ARV. Binary ARV, two possible targets, one associated with up, one associated with down. Your job as a remote viewer is to describe what you see here, because you will always see the appropriate up or down target. Now, what we're doing here is purposeful precognition. And it really begins, in quotes, not in linear time, but conceptually with your feedback session, because that's the truth point. That's the information which you want to somehow gather during your remote viewing session. And people, of course, do this all the time. You wouldn't be here if you didn't believe in precognition. But it's purposeful. And it starts as we indicated, describe and sketch your, we happen to use 6-digit numerical coordinates for the target reference number, but the cue is always this. Very clear, I think. Describe and sketch your XXX feedback target, which is this one. Now, what is the target? The target is a photo site, and I've tried to clarify it here because in many people's minds a little vague, and the viewer is in charge, but this is what I see as a photo site. It's a photo site is a particular physical site location at the particular time the photo was taken. So consciousness is expected to gather information from the photo directly. It can get colors, shapes, things you can get just by looking at a two-dimensional photo, and or move to that particular site at the time the photo was taken. And then your task is to describe or sketch what can be readily verified from the photo. Now, these are things like first impression gestalts, the things that come in right away when you were to look at a target or a photo. But obviously, you can get the visuals, you can get sounds, you get smells, tastes, tactile sensations, emotions, ideas, all kinds of things.
Thank you.
Oop, wait. Okay, so that is what a photo site is. But to really clarify it, this might be a possible target. what do you get? You might see the sounds from there, the crashing of the bowling ball into the pins. You get the colors. You might get a gestalt of action, of brown, of white, of black, the things that hit you first. What is not in here and what is not in the photo site are persons. Now, we all know that back at the other end of this alley, there are people. But in terms of what a photo site is, it's your job to describe and sketch what is in the photo, what is in the visual image of the photo. Otherwise, you might be guessing. A lot of remote viewers would like to move up 100 feet or 1,000 feet to describe a broader range of the site. If you're looking for a missing person or something, that's appropriate. An ARV, I would like you just to describe what is in the photo, but you can move here and describe that so you can hear the sounds better, feel the action, that sort of thing. Okay, so when we talk about the target being a photo site, that is what we mean. Now, I believe the idea here is really straightforward. And if any of you have questions, do please let me know. But I think the idea is pretty straightforward. And we're really interested in people who want to do this for the long term. A lot of people do it, and it's fun to do it maybe once or twice and sort of get the general idea. But that's not what Precog professionals are all about. They're in this for the long term. And practice, practice, practice is one of the statements that is so true in this field. But it's like a doctor has a practice, or even a shaman has a practice. They are always learning. And I think that's one of the key things. A doctor is always taking classes to get new information. And I believe shamans are always going deep within themselves to get more information about consciousness, other applications for their tribe, things like that. This is not a stagnant thing that you do. Okay, so final summary, and then I'll show you how we actually do it. There are 3 sessions to make one ARV prediction. The first one is a remote viewing session. And now this is in linear time. If I had to come up with one thing which you do as a remote viewer and an ARVer, is to learn to listen to your subconscious mind. You want to call that your higher self, whatever you want to call it. It's something which has more information than your ego, intellectual self, your normal day-to-day self that gets you through the physical world on a day-to-day basis. Don't want to take anything away from that. But when you're remote viewing, its job is to learn to listen, to witness, and then to write on the transcript, to record on the transcript what you get from your subconscious mind. Other stuff that comes, and we'll talk a little bit about analytical overlays, is coming from your intellectual mind. We want to set that stuff aside and have as little of that as possible. So that's what happens in step 1, the remote viewing session. Step 2 is the analysis judging. Okay? Now, this is mostly intellectual. You're comparing your transcript to 2 possible targets, and we're going to show you how to do that in detail. And this, of course, is very important because this is where you essentially, if you say you got a really good match with one of the targets or the other, that is going to be pointing to up or down. And this then would be the opportunity for you to make an investment if it was really a good match. And in many ways, I think this is perhaps the most difficult. It's analysis and judging. And we will talk more about this, but since most transcripts are not perfect, in which case then it would obviously be easy, this turns out to be difficult and some really important judgments have to be made. And I'm going to share with you some of the things which I think I've learned over the years. Now, the third step is feedback. This, of course, is also very important. All three steps are important in a way. But here, ARV begins with the feedback session. Now, since this is the truth, this is the information you're trying to describe in step one, your remote viewing session, and make it clear for the judge so it's really easy for him, you want to focus on and pay attention to your one and only feedback target. That's what you will have in front of you here. And then we believe it's important to do a quick RV-like session, which includes all the good stuff you had, as well as any important elements you might have missed. You know, this happens to all of us. We miss something that we wish we had done. Do it in your feedback session. Now, this is learning at multiple levels. It's improving your communication with your subconscious mind. It's not going to change your transcript. It's not going to change whether it was a hit or a miss. But what you're doing is setting up a protocol that your subconscious knows you're going to do for all of the subsequent, all of the future predictions that you make. Knowing that, it will help the remote viewing entangle with the feedback. So you really want to do this in your feedback session virtually every time. It just becomes a standard part of your ARV protocol. Now, subs seem to have a mind of their own, and I really do think it's important to enjoy this. There's plenty of opportunities to just have fun as you're exploring your own consciousness. But this is one example which I haven't shown for a while, but I want to show it now. This was the actual target, okay? So, and you can see how well the matches are just in terms of the sketches, got the rectangles, got this, got a lot of the appropriate words. But what I wanted to read for you here is people visit again and again, boasting how many times they've been as though this is an achievement. Now, for a subconscious to bring that up and have her just witness what came and write it down is just a perfect example of not bringing in anything else. So I just wanted to kind of share that with you. Okay. Now, how do we actually do this online? We have what is called the Winning Entanglement Program, Winning Entanglements, and it is all online. Everything that you're going to see here, plus notes and things like that that you can put in, are on a server and saved primarily for your use. So you can go back and look at things and improve yourself in one way or another. The tasking begins with an email, and here is an example of an email from an earlier webinar workshop. That's what we are. The group here is called Webinar Workshop, but we have 10 financial groups and I think 3 sporting groups, and they each have a different name. So that would be there. And then there's information about the event. I guess I highlighted this. It doesn't normally come out highlighted. And the date that it would start and when the transcripts are due. And then you click here. Pretty soon, most people, when they're just starting to do this regularly, simply you click here. And when you click there, you will get your coordinate. Before that, it will ask for your email address. Your coordinate will be unique to you. And that's how, and the target you get will be unique to you. So when you do your remote viewing, you know it's going to be a unique feedback session and feedback target that is your goal when you're tasking to describe. Um, yeah, so here's a list of some of the other groups. But notice webinar workshop is highlighted. Whatever group you're in will be highlighted here. And you can verify that. Now, when you click here to receive your coordinate or target reference number, this is what will come up at the top of a page. And I want to describe this because people sometimes get hung up here, especially the newbies. After you do it once or twice, it becomes very straightforward. But the first thing that happens is your email address is here. Here's the group. And then Q, describe and sketch your, and here will be your 6-digit coordinate. Okay? So now that you have it, the next thing you do is your RV session. And you know, usually people will write that on the top of another sheet of paper, the beginning of their transcript with their name on the right, the date, and get ready and do their transcript. If for some reason you lose this page, you come back again through that same first link, you will always get that same coordinate for that group. So you don't have to worry. You don't have to worry about that. But you've got your coordinate, and then you do your transcript. Now your transcript is done, and the rest of this page has more information on it, because from here you can now also, with this coordinate and with your transcript, you're ready to do your analysis and judging. And here is where you will upload your transcript to our server. So I don't know how the Apple stuff works, but in the PC world, there is a file system, and Apple has the same thing. It might use a different name. You need to get your transcript onto your computer, and then when you click browse, you find it. And this can be a JPEG, a PDF file, a doc file, I think an RTF file, pretty broad range of files. And you browse, and its name will come up here. And then when you click this submit button, or you have an independent judge click this submit button for you using your email. If he puts in your email, he will get this same coordinate. So he'll be able to, in fact, do the judging for you. So there are two approaches, self-judging and independent judging. Today we will be doing self-judging unless you happen to have an independent judge with you. But this is when you'll actually get into step 2. So reminders are all here. Start your RV session when you feel good about doing the session. So that's the first thing. And then if you're self-judging, you browse your transcript and upload it. But if you're working with an independent analyst judge, an IJ, you send your transcript to them. They then come to this page, bring it up from their computer, and then the next step will eventually be here. So this is what the ultimate judging page looks like. The way it is set up now, you will actually see photo site A first by itself. Many people, and I actually recommend this, but the viewer is in charge, many people will simply do the judging of photo site A and mark it up once, and I'll show you how to do that shortly. Below photo site A will be photo site B. Then they will, both of these, of course, are the possible targets. They will then judge that against their transcript. And then come down to this page, check it over. Judging is so important. You really need to go back and check it and make sure it's right. Um, and then the ultimate goal is to come up with the SRI TAR confidence ranking. When you pull the pull down menus, you go from 0 to 7, because TAR's original approach was 0 to 7. In fact, I think I have it here. And that's your job, doing a judge. You're done once you've done that, and put in your comments. The comments here are very important, and they are for you. You'll be able to go back and see these comments. And so you can see, gee, did I push this? Oh, gee, I should have, maybe I stretched it. I wasn't feeling real comfortable. Hey, I was feeling really good about this. A lot of people put in here, oh my gosh, I got the water and I got the green and it really feels really good. But the wiggly lines looked a little bit like this, but still, because I got water, I know it's photocyte. But you put in here whatever you want, but what's going on with you? It's important to do that. And then you click the Submit CR, and that finishes step 2, the judging. Okay, but let's go now and talk about judging in general. TARG's confidence ranking system is 0 to 7. This comes from Russell Targ and a couple of other guys at Stanford Research Institute. And they basically say, look, if there's no correspondence whatsoever, we'll give it a 0. It turns out that's rare. Okay, if you've got a 1 or 2 page transcript with some stuff on it, usually there's something that you could say matches, but not always. 1 is a little correspondence. 2, yeah, you got some correct elements, but not sufficient to suggest results beyond chance expectation. Now, you just get a sense of this, even at the very beginning, what might only be chance plus what might be much stronger than that. Now, a 3 is mixture of correct and incorrect elements, but enough of the correct elements to indicate the viewer has made contact with the target. So in Russ's system, this is like marginal. Yeah, maybe I use psychic stuff, but right on the margin. A 4 is good. Notice the words keep getting stronger and stronger. Good correspondence with several matchable elements intermixed with some incorrect information. There's always some incorrect information around. Still at level 4. Now, what we do is we consider 3.5. When we first started out, we made this, you could only do integers, and that drove people crazy. Is it a 3? Is it a 4? You now can do integer in between, like a 3.5. 3.5, you're saying this is the lowest level. I'm willing to bet a few bucks on this. I do consider this to be wagerable. That would be a 3.5. Now here's where you're getting much stronger. 4 is strong. A 5 is very strong. Notice the good correspondence, but now he added unambiguous, unique matchable elements, but some incorrect information is still around. But words like unambiguous and unique, they need to be pretty strong matches with his elements, what you have on your transcript in terms of words and sketches. Now, a 6 begins to bring in analytical information. This is the stuff from your left brain, beginning to maybe name things and the function of it. And on your transcript, when you get this sort of thing, it's really important to mark it as AOL, analytical overlay. One of the primary benefits of this work that we're doing is to begin to distinguish between things from your subconscious mind, your higher self, whatever you want to call it, from your day-to-day analytical, intellectual self. You've got your day-to-day self, but there's something deeper and broader going on here, which you're accessing during your ARV. So if you name it, and now you get less and less incorrect information, and then a 7 is basically spot on. You might have named the target, no incorrect information. Okay, so that's what we used for a long time, and in a way we're still using it. However, Joe McMonagle came up with an approach which captures the essence of this, but in a really important way, which is a combination of analytical plus he uses gestalts. He has concluded, and Joe McMonagle, I think most of you know him, is probably the world's most public remote viewer, and certainly an excellent one. We've had him at many of our workshops and seen just amazing work that he's done. And he maintains that these gestalts, what I call first impression gestalts, should have a 50% weighting on the confidence ranking. What is this first impression gestalt? It's the kind of thing when you quickly look at a picture, if I just flashed it at you, we've actually done this in some of the earlier webinars, you flash it for a tenth of a second, and you only get some of the big picture stuff. You get the stuff that smacks you in the face. It gets you in the ballpark of what's going on in more detail. And there can be more than one of that. There might be, a bright red dress and twirling. So you might actually get the sense of action, even in a flash. And this might be outside and you have a big blue sky. It's the big picture stuff. A mountain, an ocean. It's just the big picture stuff that you would pick up. I, could call it a gestalt. I like first impression gestalts. That's the word I've been using, or FIGs. Now, so 50% weight goes to that. 50% weight goes to the element matching, which I'm going to show you right now. But the key thing he has brought in is that he wants to give a lot of weight to these first impression gestalts. If you get a lot of words and some sketches that pick up minor portions of the picture, but you don't have the big picture, the first impression gestalts, you would give this portion of it a very low weight. Now, here's the analytical equation. Notice the first impression gestalts are between 0 and 1. The element matching, which I'm going to show you in a minute, just the number of matches of elements and sketches from the A photo here, let's say. So here's something between 0 and 1. Here's something between 0 and 1. And all you do is multiply that sum by 3.5. So you'll get a number between 0 and 7. Okay, let me show you an example. First, of how we want you to do the element matching part. We'll do the fig next. And what we do here is against each possible target, and this turned out to be target B, it was a hit. So this is the way we often show the feedback with the transcript. So that's where this came from. But Lila was nice enough to send off her judging to me. And so this is that example. Now notice in different colors, because it just makes it easier to do your counting, she has A's, little a's, and big A's. The little a's count as a half a point. And her little a holds, but it wasn't real clear. Yeah, but it really was tall. So she put a big A there. So you can have a little a big A. You can have little b's, which count as a half a point, or big B's, which count as a point. Or you can have something which has nothing on it, or you can have something which has both of them. Like here, she has a little a and a big B. So you're going over your transcript through each of the two possible targets, and then you mark it like this. So if you look at the B's here, you can see how well she did. She's got outdoors, she's got mountains, she's got sky, she got water. She's got a lot of stuff here, which she marked, and then she counted them up. So her B's, she got 24. Her A, she got 13 points. Down here is where she does like ideograms and sketches. So that's her water ideogram. You know, everybody builds up their own style for their transcript. Okay, and notice here she's put all the possible precepts, and she like touches them or goes through them. Other people do not do that. So you need to build up your own style. You probably have, most of you already. And if you're brand new, I will tell you a little bit about it when we do the prediction later. Okay, so that's the A-B matching. So she counted up the A's, she counted up the B's, and now let's take this to the next step and let's look at the gestalts. Now I looked at this one, and this was just unusual in that the gestalts, I gave her a first impression gestalt of 1. I think she captured them all. She got the mountains, she got the sky, she got the water. I think she even got green. She got green for this part here. I mean, peaceful. I mean, she just captured all the gestalts in this picture. Now, let's say she got everything else but didn't get the water. Then I might have put, instead of the 1 here, I might have put 0.75. So this is where the gestalt goes. This is where the ratio, if you remember the formula is down here. We do the first impression gestalt, and then you do the number match. Well, her number match was 24. The total, which she had down here, which was the total possible of all the things that she did, was 34. So this is now just arithmetic. It's the fig plus the 24 divided by 37, which was 0.7 times 3.5. I gave her a 5.95. She, just using the words in the TARG system, gave herself a 5. Now, it's interesting, they differ by about 1. We have done studies with different people doing judging of the same transcript target combination, and they differ by about 1. So that's okay. You know, had another person done this, they might have gotten a different number, but it's hard to think how you would not have gotten a high number, you know, between 4, 5, 6. So that's the approach. Again, I'm just summarizing the arithmetic. The first impression gestalt between 0 and 1. The number of matches with photo site A divided by the total, that sum divided by 3.5, and similarly for B. Now, while the minimal for wagering, and in the system, if you put it in, it will tell you that you're wagering in which direction, so you will know which direction you're going, is a 3.5. I frankly recommend waiting for a 4 or a 4.5 or higher before wagering. 3.5 is still marginal, and you don't get much better than 50-50 generally. But again, the viewer is in charge, and you'll be making these decisions. If you want to turn this into a pass, you make both of the CRs the same. You can lower this to a 3. I'm assuming the other one is less than 3. Or you can raise the other one to a 3.5. And then in the note, you can say, I think it's photo site B, but I'm not strong enough. Also, if the two confidence rankings are only 1 apart, you might want to consider passing. We very often see, for whatever reasons, if they're only 1 apart, maybe you're picking up a lot of stuff from both targets. Don't do that, but or they're too similar in the aspects that you're picking up, you might consider passing. And then, and I think this is so important, and we're about now to go into this, watch your hit rate and always be open to improving. You're always trying to learn and get better and better at this. This has got to become a deep part of your mindset. Now, step 3. So that was step 2, right? We did the judging, okay? And then you may or may not want to invest or wager. No matter what, you will always get feedback. This is an example of your feedback email. It will tell you what the winning side was. Here we're doing yes or no, so we could ask, will the market move up? And that's a yes or no, and it's equivalent to up or down. If it's a no, it went down. We can put in a comment. Here was the actual event of this particular one. And again, all you do is click. Okay, so you'll click there. Again, it'll ask for your email address. And after you put in your email address, you will see something like this with, of course, your particular feedback target here. But it'll have your coordinate, which I recommend you say out loud. And you do the same thing at remote viewing time. Say the coordinate, your personal coordinate out loud. It resonates within your body, and I think it can act as a type of beacon. Your intention, of course, acts as a beacon to it as well, but why not say it out loud? And then you do your feedback session, put in your comments here, and click submit. And for your feedback session, as I said, you pay a lot of attention. This is the truth about the target. It begins here. You're not going to change the outcome, but you will establish a protocol for the future. And this is something your sub can count on and use to its advantage for giving you information. The feedback target, what better time to learn than at the feedback session? On the side, there are other things you can learn. You can do meditations to ask questions and improve. But during the feedback session, you have a very specific example of how you did. You've got your transcript. You have the opportunity now to do the session you wish you had done after giving yourself a lot of attaboys and attagirls for the good stuff that you got. And you're always very positive here because in the long term, you're just going to get better and better. But here's where you ask, did you get those first impression gestalts? How were your sketches? How good were your descriptors? And you really look at the good ones, ignore the bad ones, and then add new ones. Okay, I want to transition now to the hit rate charts. And at first this looks complicated, but I think after I explain it to you, it won't be. These are very important. They're the key quantitative measurement. They are a biofeedback tool, and they are a watchdog. Now, there are 3 curves here. The red curve is the cumulative hit rate. The hit rate is just what it sounds like. It's the number of hits up to a given session number divided by the number of hits plus misses. Passes are ignored, okay, in terms of the hit rate. Now, passes are a prediction. In fact, I think people don't really pass enough. But in terms of the hit rate, they are totally ignored. And so this person didn't have too many passes. You see this flat area there? That was a pass. But mostly the cumulative would go up or down based on whether it's a hit or a miss. Okay, so that's the red curve. At the end of about 140 sessions, the cumulative here was what, 58%. The blue curve is the 10-day moving average. It's the last 10 predictions, ignoring passes. So notice it always ends off at even tens, 70%, 60%, 80%, 60%. This person went down to 10% at 40. This is sort of what I mean by watchdog and biofeedback tool. This is the big thing that all of us, the viewers, the managers, fear the most. And it happens a lot when a person gets up high. There's something in the psychology. Gee, I'm doing so well. It gets maybe too intellectual. Or am I really this good? Do I really want to be this good? The fear of success. We talk a lot about the fear of failure, but there is inside a lot of people at some level a fear of success and how it might change their life. All of that is going on at the subconscious level. And it's very important to catch that early. Wouldn't it have been nice if after a couple of misses here, maybe the person took a pass, a vacation. I don't even mean pass. I mean, took a break for several days and maybe meditated a little bit on what might be going on, and is this indicative of something or not? But certainly after 2 or 3 misses in a row, I think you should take a break. You should do something. Your subconscious mind is telling you that, you know what, there's something going on, and maybe we can work at it together and learn something, trying to avoid this. And after you do this, you're going to understand better what I'm talking about. And some of your newbies will probably do that. Okay, but this then is the 10-day. Notice back here, got up, last 9 out of 10 were hits. This time the drop, they're learning something, only went down to like 40%, came back up, and is oscillating here now between 50 and 70. Okay, so that's the blue curve, and you can always tell it because it stops at the even tens. The green is the one I consider most important for the long term. It's the 25-day moving average. And Precog professionals are going to be doing 25 predictions and then get paid based on their performance. Okay, but this is for each session. So this person, after session 32, 33, had a 25-day of 62. Notice this starts here. So their 25-day here was like 56, went up to 64, and then went down to 40. Here, this was really good. Look, above 70 and sustained. This is what we're looking for. We're trying to avoid drops. We want each of you to learn how to get up into this 70% range and stay there. And with learning, we believe you can do that. This person came back down and is now, between 60 and 65, but so far consistent out to this point. The learning involves things like this. I just wanted to put this here, and then we're going to get right into the Precog Pro more details. We've now shown you how we do things. I've given you the hit rate to use as a guide for hopefully getting better and better. What does it take to get better and better? Well, that's, it's not an easy one-liner, but Joe McMonagle and Ed May, and he was a chief scientist at SRI after Hal Puthoff, and he's still working in the field. They concluded in this paper the possible role of intention, attention, and expectation in remote viewing. What is clear, at least to those of us on our long-established team, is that intention, attention, and expectation play a very important role in the success of both application and research of remote viewing. And I certainly agree with that. And, you know, I guess it's implied here, but I wanted to say it out loud. This intention, expectation, and attention, you're always paying attention, and you're mostly paying attention to your own mind all the time. What's going on in your consciousness? You know, subconscious information comes up, but you only get to see it in the conscious moment, and that's where you pay attention. Intention and expectation, positive for both the short and long term. You've got to get this sense of the long term. We get information from the future. This very moment is a function of both your past and your future. And so you want good, positive mindset for the short and long term. And then I've added a new word here, which I believe is very important, and that's your belief system, which are very complicated. You know, they started when you were very, very young, but nurture this deep belief that you can become a Precog Pro for the long term. You're not only going to get there, but you're going to stay there and do this and integrate this in a very healthy way with the rest of your life. Okay, first I'm going to talk about what we've done in the past, and then I'm going to tell you about our current one. I doubt if you can read this, but let me summarize it for you. This is from 2015, where we did only a third of a year, through 2017. And the key numbers are really return on investment. We provided all the money to everybody except this one person, where he put up 5,000 and I put up 5,000. So we were equal partners. But here we were equal partners too, except I put up the money, and if there were any losses, I would take all the losses. Otherwise, we shared the profits 50-50. So that was the setup here. So any trades and stuff I made, we were all equal partners on all of these. Now, the return on investments, and they're listed from the highest to the lowest. You can see we had 91%, 90%, 56%. Here, we had 810%, 453%, 178%, 166%. The lowest was a minus 42%. Not all the people who I brought into the Precog Pro, see, and that's me making choices about people. Sometimes when they come in, there's extra stress, and it's unfortunate because a lot of it is, oh, I want to really do good for you, Marty, for the group. That's one of the reasons I changed, actually, the approach to what you're going to see next. People were getting too involved in the investment, and then what's the investment? Gee, am I hurting you? Stuff like that, which shouldn't have been on their mind. They should just focus on their ARV. In 2017, so the total was 155% return on investment in 2016. In 2017, here again, we got very good high ones, 328, 295, a bit lower, and then some negative ones. The total return in that year was actually only 22%. Now, by most terms, that's considered pretty good, but I was not pleased, and I wasn't really pleased with the trend, and it caused me to stop this approach and go into the new approach, which is what I'm going to tell you now. And I'm going to now start right away. And if you have any questions on this, you're just going to have to ask. But this is the compensation approach for Precog Pros. And it has multiple levels. I'll tell you right up front what we're looking for, and have always been looking for, and have found in some cases, people at the 72% and plus level, okay? And as you'll see shortly, if on 25 predictions, you can get to 72%, you can end off making a lot of money as you move through these levels. But you will start at level 1, and at the end of 25 predictions, you will have a hit rate, which that's what this column is. You'll have a hit rate. We've only indicated 40% down to 100%. And whatever your hit rate is at level 1, this will be your compensation. So you start at level 1, and you're based on your own personal hit rate after 25 predictions. It has nothing to do with the way I wager. It's got nothing to do with me. You don't concern yourself about that. All you concern yourself with is getting the highest hit rate possible. Now, how do you move from level to level? Well, if you're in the green area, which is 72% or above, at the end, you go to the next level. So if you got 72% here, you would get paid. Well, here's the example I gave. I gave the example of someone who is at the 76% level. They would get paid $2,094 at the end of their 25. Then they would start their next 25. But they would start their next 25 at level 2. So if they did 76% again, they would get $4,187 for the second 25. And now they keep learning and improving, and they get up to 80%. They get $9,422. And that can continue. And you can see you can get up to hundreds of thousands of dollars for 25 predictions, you know, as you get to higher levels and very good hit rates, of course. But even what I would call modest hit rates, 72 to 80%, you're in the tens of thousands of compensation for 25 predictions. Now, if you fall below 72 and you're in the yellow, then you actually go down a level. We want you to be consistent. You saw that big drop I talked about. We want you to do everything you possibly can to not let that happen. And here's an example. If you've worked your way up to level 6, but your hit rate is 68%, you'll get paid $5,583, but you will move down from level 6 to level 5 for your next 25. Now, the gray area, you know, you're just coming into this, and we figure you're still doing your learning and learning how to improve. So if you're in the gray area and you don't fall below 60%, you'll just stay at that level. If you go below 60%, here, there is a level 0. Here you go, if you were here, you would go down one level. But if you're at level 1, there is a level 0, which is half of this level. And if you just can't get it together, you know, I think by mutual agreement, you'll leave the program and come up with something else that's fun for you to do with your life. Because if you're not doing that well, and you've given it your best shot, it's fine. Go on to other things, and we were happy to have you here. Okay, so that's the compensation package. Now, how do you, okay, now I believe, and I say this because too often we get criticized, oh, it's all about the money, it's all about the money. And they say that about sex too. Is it all about the sex? Well, it is about the money, but it really isn't. Um, the primary benefit is creating a strong working relationship with your subconscious mind. You want to call it the higher self, the matrix, the universe of collective consciousness, whatever. That is the primary benefit. And what you will find, and those of us that have been doing this for a while, we talk to each other, and what we find is this helps with other parts of your life because the subconscious mind just has so much more information than your left brain, and it's more than willing to share it with you if you listen. Okay, what are the qualifications? And I'm just emphasizing again that these are non-pass predictions. A hit rate is hits, number of hits plus number of misses. That's not a hashtag, that's number. And here it is. If you are just coming in new and you can get 7 hits out of your first 10, you're in. That's a hit rate of 70%. We're actually being somewhat generous. That's a little less than statistically significant, but it's still quite significant. If you do 15, you've got 11 hits out of your first 15, you're in. That's a 73% hit rate. If you get 14 hits out of your first 20, that's 70%, you're in. And if you get 17 hits out of your first 25, that's actually 68%, but you're in. Okay, notice these are all close to that 72% level. And the idea here is newbies, there's a combination of beginning luck, plus you're just a newbie. We expect you, and you might even dip after you get in, but then we expect you to learn and get better and better. Okay, so that's some of you here. I don't recognize your names, so I know some of you are indeed newbies. Now, what about people who've already been in this, or if you don't make it in your first 25, we hope you will stay and keep trying to learn. We have people that have hundreds and hundreds doing this, and they eventually become Precog Pros. I'll show you an example of that. Here, what you have to do is maintain a 64% or more 25-day hit rate for 5 predictions in a row. We are looking for consistency. And so this is the way, at least in terms of qualifying, we do that. So 64% for 5 predictions in a row. Okay, let's go back to this one. And this person, 10-day, didn't make it. 25-day, which is the green curve, and you can look here, the 20-day 15 didn't do it. 25-day didn't do it. Went up to 64% here, but didn't stay for 5 days. However, notice the dip and everything, which we talked about and want to avoid mightily, doing anything you can to avoid that. When it happens, you've got something to learn for sure. Here, though, went above the 64 and clearly stayed above for more than 5 days. Became a Precog Pro, still a Precog Pro, even though they dropped. Okay, notice staying though around 60%, has not moved up to level 2. But this is one example. I now want to give an example for newbies. This is a newbie in the first 10. Remember, the blue curve is the first 10, got 80% in. Here's another newbie, didn't make it on the first 10, but made it here, went over 70 and kept it for 5 turns. And we, of course, hope that this person will stay up at the 70 level. Now, I want to show one other one, which is just learning. This person is not there yet, but look at their 10-day. If they can keep their 10-day up here in the 75, 80% level, then the 25-day will move up to there, and they too will become a Precog Pro. And if they get some misses, the old adage that there's more to learn from misses than hits, that is true. And that needs to be your attitude. What can I do better? Hey, this is what I did right, but what can I do better? That's how you're going to become a Precog Pro. We keep, and as you can see here, I'm being totally open about this. This is everything that's involved with being a Precog Pro. That was the intention of this part of the webinar. This is the worksheets that we keep. And this will help explain the full compensation fee schedule. At level 1, what we actually do is give you a $250 kind of cyber investment. And we go and we keep track, and your investment goes up or down by 20%. That's what the Kelly factor means, based on your bankroll. Think of this as your starting bankroll. Whenever you get a hit, it goes up by 20%. So we went up to 300. Whoops, you got a miss here. It went down to 240. Oh, look at this series of hits. By the 6th one, your 250 is now $498. And this will continue until 25, and then you'll get paid. This is a different example of 25 using, again, this 20% hit rate. But the important point I want to make here, which I haven't yet said, is let's say in this example, this is a 72% hit rate. Okay, your factor increase was 5.58. You had 18 hits, 7 misses. The key is, since each time you're multiplying by 1.2 or 0.8, the order doesn't matter. There are no commissions in here. You don't have to worry about any of that. This 72% and this $13,956 depends strictly on your final hit rate, period. And that's why we get that 1396 number here, and all these other numbers come based on that 20% Kelly approach. And then the different levels, we start you off with more and more money because you're getting better and better. And you should earn more and more. Okay. That ends the Precog Pro session. How are you all doing? I gave you a lot of information. I hope you absorbed it. Are there any questions or comments? You can put them in the chat box or turn on your mic. You all want to become Precog Pros, right? Some of you already are.
I have a question, Marty.
Okay, good.
How often are the payments made for the earnings?
Whenever you reach 25. In other words, we actually will sign a contract with you, and it says we'll pay you 2 weeks after you reach your 25th. Okay. So that takes a different amount of time for different people. Some people are only comfortable doing 1 or 2 a week. I have some people who are doing 10 a week. We have 10 financial groups. So hopefully they do like 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, each one with their full intention, attention, expectation. But all that'll show up in their hit rate. So they need to manage their time. So it just depends on how long it takes you to do your 25.
Okay. And who are the investors that putting the money in the market?
Me. APPI. So that is what APPI, and it's a nonprofit organization, and APPI uses interactive brokers, and it is generally investing in derivatives just because we get in and out within a day. So we're investing in the S&P 500 futures, and we do some with options, puts and calls.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay, good. Anybody else, please?
Hi, this is Krista.
Hi, Krista.
It's Mike Myers.
I'm new to this.
I
I
was
have studied
self-judging at first.
this. Oh, sorry.
Negative results.
Okay, wait, hold on. Let's let Krista go, and then
Right.
Mike, you can go too.
I'll let Chris go.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Oh, sorry about that. I'm of course new, and my intention is to do 2 sessions a week as a starter, and just see how I go. Work maybe first on my intention, and then really first on my the expectations, and then do 2 a week. So obviously, as let me say, what am I, a practicer, a starter, a newbie?
Right.
Do I maybe just do a few and see how I go, and just log my my information on the server, and then try and see whether I'm ready for this? Or how would you recommend to start?
The system won't do that, but you could beat the system by using 2 different emails.
Oh, okay.
But I actually don't think you should do that. I think you should jump in with your very first one, do your very best that you can do, and just let it go.
Do it. Okay.
Because a lot of people have beginner's luck. It's amazing how often a person's first one will be really, really terrific. But
Yeah.
if you wanted to do other practice ones, you could.
Okay. I think I like your style. Just jump in and get it done. Thank you
That's
so
right.
much. Yeah.
When you do it for fake, it doesn't have the same intensity and everything.
Yes, I
Okay.
agree.
Thank you, Krista. Okay. You were next, Mike?
Yep. Okay. Hopefully you
Okay,
can
go ahead. And then I see something in the chat, so I'll do that also.
Okay. All right.
Go ahead.
So I had been self-judging and did not have good results. I moved, and I had Mike judging for me, who's now moved to something different, trying to get my rates up. Now, will you typically, with Mike as an exterior judge, if we hit every time, but you will typically watch this, and you would see when I reached 70 or above, and that's what cues it, or do we need to let you know?
I watch, I've got a lot of people doing this, so
Yes.
I try to watch people, and I do get to see their 25-day hit rate of the Precog Pros, not of everybody. So I think you ought to take it upon yourself to let me know if I miss it. I usually try to watch, but take it upon yourself, and then you'll be in. So I'll be able to look at your hit rate chart as well as you can. Okay.
Okay, good. Now he's moved, so I'm going to start with Judge with Carl. So we'll have to see what that goes like and go from there.
Okay, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Okay, that's great. Okay, so let me look at some of these. Can we do past predictions when we are tired or not sure? Let's say you sign up for 2, 3, 4 per week. If you do not feel like doing one on that day, just don't do it. There's no obligations to do it, even though you receive a tasking email. I mean, that's really important. I think it's best to only do your remote viewing session when you feel it's right. Hey, I'm feeling pretty good about this, and I'm going to go ahead and do it. So there's nothing wrong with passes. I think that's one of the biggest mistakes people make. They just do not pass enough. So I hope that answers that question. Here's 2 questions. What if you have a CR for the incorrect target more than once? Okay, that of course is called displacement. What is the best way to avoid, and that's a high CR, which I consider to be a 5, maybe even a 4.5, but 5 or above, if you've properly judged it using McMonagle's method, and the other one is low, you've given a good description of the wrong target. There is no simple answer to that. I think you need to look at your methodology, make sure you judged everything correctly, first of all, and then some people don't like this, and I don't know why, because it seems so right to me. Get quiet, meditate, ask your sub what you ought to do. That's my best advice. I mean, you know, you're asking me, and this question's been around so long, nobody's come up with a good answer, and I think that's because it's very personal. There may be something like fear of success, fear of failure. I mean, I don't know. You know, there's all kinds of possible reasons, but your subconscious knows. Okay, first time effect can be most powerful. If you have a miss when you do feedback, what is it to use that to learn rather than lower? Well, a very good question. And the first thing is to say, you know what? Don't lower your confidence. Say, hey, this is my opportunity to learn, so I'll do even better for the long term when you get the miss. And then look at it and really spend time with the stuff you wish you had done right. You know, let's say you missed water and there's a big water element in it, whether it's a water fountain, the ocean, a spring, you know, whatever. Take some time to get into it. This is what water is like, and get into that. And I'm sharing this with you, my subconscious, so next time water comes, you'll give me a word or you'll give me a wiggly line, if a wiggly line means water for you, and it does for most people. And that's how you use it. If you missed a really dominant color, oh, this is the time to learn dominant colors. I always get a little upset when people say I can't do colors. Okay, maybe you can't now. Well, why don't you learn how? And it's sometimes when there's a dominant color there that you missed, it's an opportunity to learn red. And then you learn blue. Remember, you're in this for the long term. And I think that's one of the best ways of using misses. I know I'm learning for the long term, and I'm actually taking action and doing something to help myself for the long term. Okay, Anita, I'm an old bee. I'm glad you used that term. Someone got upset at that and said, you should use veteran. I like old bee. Who fell below 60 for some time and improved. Very good. Shins above 68. Absolutely. Absolutely. And Anita, please go for it. And I know you can do it. I've seen your stuff. So it's just a matter of reducing those misses and getting more hits. How do I get my first coordinate to start practicing? Okay, Micah, what you have to do if you're not already in a group is to email me. You've got my email address from all the emails I've been sending you, and say I would like to be in 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 financial groups, and that'll get done. I have some very nice help, Julie Beeman, who will put you in those groups. So just send me an email.
Marty, I have another question.
Okay, wait, let me just get through George here, who I just read. I believe that I do have the answer. We've healed self-doubt, feel of failure, and much more. Okay, George, that's another whole conversation. George, if you want to, you can put your email address in there. George is a great believer in both tapping and past life. I don't want to say regression. It's like problems from the past life that are affecting you and giving you misses now. And if you want to put your email in there, anybody who's interested in pursuing that, you're welcome to contact George directly. Okay, who is that? You just, yeah, go ahead, Niles. Mhm.
Yeah. So if a person wants to do 2 sessions a day and they're just starting out, they still haven't gotten to the 10 sessions a day yet. Can they do that so they can start accumulating some statistics for their sessions? You know,
Absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely.
How?
Just contact me or somebody else and say I want to have 10 sessions, and then you'll have 2 a day.
Great.
Now I have to say, just because when you do that, if you do 2 sessions, there have been some people who thought that was a very bad idea because it's trying to do too much. They're going to interfere, blah, 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 blah. I really recommend separating them in time, certainly in psychic space. But you'll see how you do. You know, if you don't do really well with 2, you might want to fall back to 1. On the other hand, you might do really well with 2. So, but the answer is this approach is open to doing up to 2 a day.
Okay. And do you believe in doing it at a certain time of day, like relating to the center of the galaxy and all that stuff?
Yeah, no. We even had at one of our webinars, James Spottiswoode, who you're referring to his work, and he backed off on that. So he no longer believes the LST 1330
Oh, wow.
is
Thank
valid. You. Yeah. So.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, there you go. You've got George is there. He wants you to watch a YouTube thing. Okay. And he's got his email there. So very good. Thank you, George. Okay, Nathan. So meditate and also remind yourself that you're taking action to improve. Absolutely. That is exactly, that's really a good summary. Anybody else? I know this is so important. Okay, well, all of you have my email addresses. If new questions come up later, you just feel free to send me an email. Okay, now we're ready to go on to the next part, which is let's do some feedback from last month. And so we'll be able to talk a little bit about it. This was the tasking. Okay, so those of you who will just be starting out, remember you will start with the tasking email like this from whatever group you decide to start with. And you'll click here. And these people did this last month. Here's the event. Will SPY, which is basically a stock that follows the S&P 500. It has 1/10 the value, very close. And it will be down. And we have this thing of a line, which is our stop and limit. And in this case, the line was 10. And it will be down from, which was the price that from September 3rd, which was 287.8. So there was the tasking. Now the outcome was no, because this was 287.80 here. And you can see the previous day was here. This chart, and here's 8.6 right here. So that's where it closed. This was September 3rd, which was the day we said it would stop. These are dailies that show the high.
Marty, what's the time scaling on that chart there?
This is daily.
Okay.
And so it shows the high, it shows the low, and the green means it started, the opening price was here. So in the simplest terms, it probably opened here, went down to this low, came up to this high, but it closed here. So that's green. If it's red, it opened here. Who knows what it did during the day, but the high of the day was there and it closed there. So these are called candles, and they show the high, the low, and then from the opening on that day to the close. And you can get these on all kinds of time frames. In fact, I'm going to show you another one shortly. But this one shows, by doing the daily, that the answer was no, because it did not go down from here by more than 10. In fact, the whole range was like 5, down to 820, 8250, but it ended off actually being up a little. It never went up or down 10, but at the end of the day, it was up a little. So the answer was no. Now, just really for interest, I'm showing you another one that goes further back in time. I think this might be an hourly chart over 3 months, or it might be daily. I don't remember, but it doesn't matter. It looks like it's daily. But the reason we did that was, look at this sharp drop. And this is the August 6th date right here. And you can see here, it stayed flat. This was the last day from here to here. But I was motivated to do that because everybody was talking about how we're going to go into a bear market. And so we asked that question, and the answer ended off being no. Turned out most people actually said yes. Okay, so how do you then get your feedback? You would get an email, which would be sent to you by the group manager, which for the financials is me. And you would then click here, and it would give you your feedback, your specific feedback associated just with you. So that's how easy it is. And that's one of the main points here, is we've made this as easy as we can so that you can focus on doing your ARVing. Okay, so if you were here a month ago, this is the link that was on this page for you. I'm going to click it. So you would have clicked it there. See, here's where you'd put in your particular email. And I'm going to copy this into the chat box. So those of you who did it last month can do your feedback. Okay. And then if you didn't, I'm going to show you 2 examples now. Okay. So those of you who were not here last month, didn't do it, let's just talk about how, you might do it. And this is another example of the A-B match, just to remind you about that portion of it. And Lila, are you here? Yeah, there you are. Very good. You mind talking about this? In this case, we can all see your A's, which you give yourself a 5 there. And it turns out this, as you're now seeing, was a miss. And someone asked about it, so I would love your thoughts on that.
Wait, a miss? Isn't that a hit?
Yes, I'm sorry. You're right.
God.
Absolutely right, Lila. Every now and then I was thinking about someone who got a miss. Just talk about it. No, this was a nice hit. Side A was the hit. Absolutely.
Yeah.
The order was no, yes, which is random, by the way. The A and B association is random. Okay, very nice hit. And I can see you had 17 on your A side. Now, what would you say? You did not use Joe's approach again? You're just looking at the TARG approach. I know, because you've been doing that for a long time. So you've never...
I use Joe's approach. I give 50% to my figs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Those, they're just not on the sheet. That's why I said that. Okay, so you did do that. So you gave that a 0.5. Very good.
Yeah.
And of course, I was going to ask you about that. So what did you give as your fig? I mean, certainly I said hard.
I call my first, you know what? I call them my ideograms are my figs.
Oh.
Yeah.
So the fact that you got, was that water? Which one is, this is sort of water going up?
Yeah. Well, None of them are really water per se. In fact, I didn't even have the word water.
And
I just got something going up. It kept going up. I have three things that go up, and one of them is kind of curling, which shows it coming down. So I clearly got the effect of the water. I just didn't say what it was.
okay, that's so important. And your honesty and reality in the way you said it, to give yourself a 0.5, I hope will help everybody. You know, before you got a 1 on it, because you did, you nailed it. This time you didn't, and you gave yourself a 0.5, and you used Joe's technique, and it gave you a 5, and you got a hit. Excellent.
Yes.
Excellent.
Now, I wrote a note on my transcript that last month 3 people went with photosite A, and I was the only one to go with photosite B. Or I mean, the other way around.
The other way, exactly. You were the only one that got.
I was the only one that went with A, and I got a hit. So I'm curious if the other people got hits or misses.
No, they got misses, but also the group was a miss. Because I went with the others, since I think it was a 3-to-1.
Right.
Like 3-to-1, and some of the others were high.
Yes.
I don't know how they judged, and they should look at theirs. But I decided not to show that. I once showed somebody who did a bad job, and he got very, very upset at me. So I'm now showing the good stuff.
I will never get upset if you show a bad job that I did, because I'm not attached to any of these.
That's so important also as a Precog Pro or remote viewer. Perfect. Yeah, I haven't looked at but you're very close, Lila. Please keep it up.
I'm getting close. I am getting close.
I
So what I didn't mark on here was the color gray, and certainly those rocks are gray. So I even missed something very obvious.
Yep.
And then on my transcript, I put under textures, I put wet. I added these wet. Under the colors, I put clear. Dynamics, I put flowing. And under sounds, I put trickle and splash. Like you said, to add to it.
That is perfect. So I hope you all heard that. You know, Lila's been doing this for a long time, and follow her.
I have
what she's
spectacular
doing.
displacement sometimes. So
nobody is yet perfect, but I think the one thing which I hope you will stop doing is turn your 3.5 and 4, even 4s into passes. I think that'll get you into the Precog.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. And that's good for everybody. You know, after you do this whole session and you get a 3.5 or a 4, you just don't want to pass. Psychologically, it's hard. But I really recommend having the discipline to pass. That makes a difference. Okay, here's another example. And this one did not send me the judging page. Are you here, Paula, by any chance? God, we still have 30 people here. That's great. Probably not. But I'll tell you what impressed me about this. And this was a pass. She gave herself 2 4s. But notice the people here. I mean, that just looks to me to be quite impressive. I did not see water, nor man-made. So a lot of these words obviously went for the other one. And but she was able to give herself a pass. B was actually a little higher. And that's how I'm leaning, which would have been a miss, but too close to call. So that was the perfect kind of discipline that you want. If the 2 confidence rankings are close, there are a lot of reasons for that, but your subconscious might be able to say, right now, for whatever reason, why don't you pass? Okay. I don't know if I'm going to say it again, but I do say it a lot, and it's worthy of saying a lot. Feedback is for learning. that's your opportunity. You have the truth. And practice, practice, practice. Being committed to the long term is just right, like a doctor or a shaman. You know, shamans have one foot in the spiritual, but one foot in the physical. They have the job of helping their tribe, let's say. Well, Precog Pros, this is a little obnoxious, but I'm going to say it anyway, are a bit like that because we have one foot in the spiritual. We're clearly, when we get down deep into our subconscious and we're connected with the universe of collective consciousness that has all the information, past, present, and future in it. But we're doing this to educate society. At least most of us are doing it for that reason. And I hope we make a lot of money, and I hope we become wealthy, but wealth includes sharing it with some aspect of society that makes sense to you. So I like that analogy a lot. Okay, let me see. Did some of you do feedback from last week? Because we can look at it now. Lila, did you do one from last month, I mean?
Well, that was the one we just went over, the one with the fountain. That was from last month.
Oh, I'm silly. You know what? I'm going back to the way I used to do it. I used to go back and get it from there. Thank you. Okay, so we're done with the feedback. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Any questions on the feedback? You know, we hopefully impressed upon you how important it is and really get into the details. Like here, since water wasn't mentioned, Paula should really get into it and take some time getting the sense of what water is like so that in the future the subconscious will give it that. There are other things probably she didn't get here, but she gave herself a 4, so she did get a lot. Congratulate herself on this, on getting figures like that.
Marty.
Yeah.
What's your take on the probability distribution of future events? Even if you're a perfect remote viewer, is there some chance that what is predicted today or what is known today by a remote viewer and it seems accurate today will not actually occur, say, a week from now?
Who asked that? I just didn't see.
Nils.
Yeah, Nils. Very, very, very good question. And it gets actually at the very deepest level of the theory. And so let me answer it at that question, because that's the only level you can answer that question. I have this universe of collective consciousness model that I've talked about so much that I decided not to bring it up here. And it basically says in this ego, we call it the matrix, Akashic record, book of life, it has everything in it, not only probable futures like probable universes, but also what actually happens. The signature of what's going on right now. Here, I'm raising my right hand. Here, I'm bringing my hands together. I could have done all kinds of things at that very moment. But the one I actually did is and was in the universe of collective consciousness. So I believe in theory, remote viewers can always get the correct one because it's there. The actual target that you see at feedback time, those are conscious moments which were in the UCC before you got there. Now, maybe sometimes you pick up the most probable instead and it's wrong. Or maybe your subconscious is trying to give you messages to teach you something else. Hey, it's time for you to go down and let's learn something new. I mean, I don't know. When you get to that level, you need to look inward. All of this is a inside job. Um,
So when a psychic, good psychic says there's an 80% probability that there's going to be such and such person for the president, that's just BS. They can't see it.
well, I don't know how they said 80%, but maybe they have a technique where they would say that, but I'd like to see how accurate they are. You know, I like the idea of doing that. And if they do 100 of them and they said 80%, 20 times, and it was right 80 out of 100 times, that would be very impressive. But I don't know anybody who could do that. But this gives me an opportunity to say something else that's often considered an apparent contradiction here. And I don't see it that way. And they often say, hey, what happens if a psychic tells the police, he's one of the psychics where police is listened to, that there's going to be a robbery, 3 guys with machine guns are going to go into a store of some sort, and actually rob the place, and they're going to shoot up some people. The police go and stop them with the machine gun. So it's obviously going to happen. But the guy predicted that they were going to go in the store, and they didn't. So he actually got a miss in his prediction. Okay? What this person did was picked up one of the more probable things, and described that, gave that to the police, and all of this is sort of managed by the subconscious and the UCC, and so there's no contradiction. He just got the most probable, and indeed it was a miss, but it was a sharing of the most probable with the police.
So are you saying a remote viewer can actually change the future then?
No, he can be wrong, but still give useful information. At least that's
but I mean, if you know there's going to be a tragic event next week, and you tell the people involved, and they avoid the tragedy, wouldn't the psychic or the remote viewer change the future then?
Yes, change the outcome in exactly the way you said it. Except, see, you really can't. This all gets so subtle and theoretical. You didn't change the outcome, right? The outcome only happens one way. The robbery actually never happened. People in there didn't get killed. In your airplane disaster example, the person who listened to that, definitely his life was saved because you did see the airplane crash. But notice it's sort of subtle because that person made a choice. In the store example, the store robbery never happened. You didn't. It looks like you changed it since you did see the robbers out there, but the words sort of fail here. I know what you're saying. I mean, if you want to think of it as you change the future, you change the choice of probable futures is the way I would say it. But
right. But if I understand that logic correctly, then all the events are predetermined. There is no free will. So that gets kind of
no,
confusing.
that's absolutely wrong.
Oh, really?
Again, at the theory level, you're the one who's creating it all along. You and all the other conscious beings together create all the conscious moments that happen. And the fact that the UCC contains them all takes nothing away from your free will in the moment. Again, I can do this, I can do this. I have free will only in the moment. That's my free will.
Okay. But you're a physicist, and you obviously know about quantum mechanics, and there is no certainty until you actually participate, and then you know the outcome.
Exactly right. And there are probable futures, but then there's also the actual outcome. And I'm actually saying the actual outcome is there as well, even though we can't get it right every time.
Oh, Very, very deep.
It is. It is. But you know, okay. Let's move on. It's rather theoretical, but this is where we're playing, because precognition, you know, how good can it get is one of the key issues. And I think getting it up to 80%, I don't have any problem seeing that for most people, if they stay with it. You know, 90% and above Carnegie Hall level, we'll have to wait and see. So, okay.
Okay, thank you.
Let's go with a new prediction. So here is the prediction we are now about to make. In fact, I'd like you guys to stretch a little bit. We're getting ready to make a new prediction. It's good to sort of, we're going to begin to quiet our minds. And it comes in an email, just like this. In fact, the newbies, this will be the first thing that you will get, is a new prediction email like this for your particular group. And then you would simply click here. Since this is PowerPoint, I just made a copy of it here so I can click on it just like you would do. And then here's where you put in your email address. Okay, I'll put in mine. You put it in twice. And in fact, you know what? I wanted to put, well, let me just finish this, and then I'll put that in the box so you old bees can do it. So this would be my coordinate. So that's how easy it is. This is my coordinate. And then we talked about the judging and all that down here, and we will do that later. But for now, let me go back here. And I want to get this one, and I'll put this in the chat box to everyone. I think some people sent me, there we go. Okay, so if you feel comfortable starting right now, you're an old bee, you've done this, you can click there. It'll ask for your email, and you can do your session, and you'll get a little bit more time. For those of you who are newbies, let me introduce remote viewing to you. Okay, so you will use that same link, but why don't you just wait a moment. Now, on what's going to become your transcript, once you get your coordinate, also target reference number, you put that on the top. Just almost everybody puts their name, a date, and time for record keeping. And there's this thing called the ideogram or pictogram. It's like a little sketch. You've seen examples of that. There's lots of information about that, but that's a good way to start, just because it gets you going. And you say the coordinate out loud when you're ready, after you do what's called the cool down, and I'm about to tell you about that. Here's a place for gestalts. So this is kind of one approach. You've seen other approaches, and the gestalts sometimes come later, sometimes they're mixed in here with all of the possible kinds of information that your nervous system, through your conscious mind, gathering the information from your subconscious, can give you. Textures, colors, smells, tastes, dimensions, big, round, triangular, you know, all kinds of dimensional variables. Sounds, is it dynamic? Is it moving, not moving? Temperatures. And feelings, you can get feelings at the side. If it looks like a person is crying, you can get sadness. So there's all kinds of things you can get. And then always leave room for sketches. And then on the right, this is where this intellectual analytical overlays go. And I like to call it trash, because it's good to write them down and then you forget it and move on. And the thing about AOLs, once you get the sense that it's come from your intellectual, left brain kind of thing, that distinction is really important to make, suppose, the stuff that comes from your subconscious. And that's something you learn. Again, I want to repeat setting intention, attention, and expectation. Now, your intention and expectation should be, I'm going to really start doing a good session here. I'm going to describe and sketch. And I want you to hear this cool down. This is when we do kind of a mini meditation to not only clear our mind of day-to-day stuff, but go as deep as we can with our sub to get the information from the UCC, the matrix.
I think the most important thing is to really want to work that session. You have a need to know, a desire to know, a genuine curiosity about the target. To have no expectation about the target. You shouldn't have any idea what it is and not care a bit about what it is, but want to know about it. So a blank mind, a clear mind, no wants and desires, maybe listen to some music, get your mind right, and then just focus on what you're doing and allow the protocols that you're using to drive the session, not your expectation or your thoughts about what the target might be. Just let your subconscious give you the data.
And that's Dick Algara that worked with the Hawaii remote viewing group.
I think the
Joe McMonagle says the very same thing. He once said it was 75% of the discipline. And what he means by that is getting down to the point where the subconscious is going to give you the good information. So he believes cool down is very important too. Now for your newbies with remote viewing, we're about to do this cool down, and the remote viewing session is really about becoming a witness to the information from your subconscious. So let go of the day-to-day stuff. Just get really quiet. I recommend breathing in, breathing out, and with each in-breath and out-breath, you feel yourself going deeper and deeper. I'm going to play in the background some hemisync music, which is supposed to does help the cool down. It'll be 10 minutes. At about 2 minutes, a narrator, just so you get a sense of time, will remind you to turn inward. And then your job is to witness and write and draw on your transcript what your sub provides. And I'll tell you when you have a minute left. So begin now. Hello?
First, let go of your physical senses, the body, and turn in.
Okay, you have about 1 minute left. Perhaps you might get from your sub 1 or 2 more elements. Okay, why don't we come back to our normal state and stretch a little bit and feel good about what we just did. On your session, you might write end or EOS for end of session. And that completes your remote viewing session. Well done. Okay. Okay, so now the next step is to do the judging. And ultimately, we come up with a yes or no. In fact, at this point, the computer only knows the relationship between the two possible targets and what's yes or no. That's random. All of this is done so you have no choice but to get information from your feedback. So let me first tell you what analysis judging is not. Here's a skeptic, and he says, I alone know the contents of this envelope. It's a charcoal drawing of a woodchuck eating a small orange. So there's our remote viewer, pretty concise. You wouldn't want to do anything like that because he's named things, but nevertheless, you get the idea. And our skeptic, of course, would say, nice try, you little fraud, but that's a long way from an ink drawing of a beaver eating a tangerine. Well, come on. We understand small orange, tangerine are really very close. Charcoal drawing and ink drawing, we would give good marks as that being a match, and a beaver versus a woodchuck would be terrific animal in either case and that sort of thing. So you don't want to be too precise. The sub uses metaphors. Remember, it's going through your whole system. It's getting the information, and it's got to get it through your psyche and all the connections with that until it finally gets a reading in your conscious mind. And so it's those conscious moments that come from your sub won't be precisely the target, but sometimes they'll have pieces of it, which is very close. Some people like Joe McMonagle will get it precisely, which shows it can be done, even if it is, totally unknown to him and precognitive. But here you are, you've done your transcript. Now you've got to get them into the server. You need to make a actual prediction. So let's do it. Do you remember this page? You have the equivalent of it in your computer because that's what you used when you got your coordinate. So now it's time to get it in your computer and browse and find it. And then when you click submit, you will begin the analysis judging process. So let me just make sure you all can get through that. Sometimes people who don't have a lot of experience with computers have trouble with that. But in this day and age, most people are using their smartphones and taking a picture and transferring it to their computer, or they take their transcript and scan it. Some people even do it all on their smartphone or iPad, and then they can take a picture with that.
Excuse me, Marty.
Yep.
I lost the link again when my computer went to sleep.
Oh,
So
boy.
I know. It's only when I do your Zoom. So something's
Okay.
up.
Here it is again.
Thank you.
Well, it should be here again. Let me see. There it goes. Okay, you see it?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so you'll yeah, okay, that's fine. You'll be doing it while we're talking about all these other things, and you'll submit it. You've done that before. So, does everybody understand the step they're supposed to be doing now? You somehow get a copy of your transcript on to a computer that you can then browse Could even be on your smartphone that you browse. And once you find it, it'll show up here. And once it shows up here, you can click submit. And to show you how much this is truly precognitive, your actual pair of possible targets, which is unique to that coordinate, will not be chosen until after you click the submit button. That guarantees that all of this is precognitive. So we can't go to the next step until you put, you can't go to the next step until you put your transcript in there. And then once you do that, you know, I'm covered. You will get first the first one, and then the second one, and then a page like this. We've talked about the TARG system, but I would like you to use Joe's system. And remember, he has the 50% weight for first impressions. This is the formula. I will give this example again just to remind you that when you're doing photo site A, you do little a's or big A's, and when you're doing photo site B, you do little b's or big B's. And then the first step is to simply count up all your A's and all your B's and the total, so you can do the ratio for the number of matches versus the total, and then you make a judgment about how much first impression gestalts did you capture the big picture stuff, you know, and how much, what percentage of it. Okay, so I'm not seeing any questions about this in the chat box, or you can turn on your mic. And feel free if you have a question, because if you have one, others may have it as well. Okay, some of you may already.
Marty, I have a question.
Yeah, shoot.
All right. So is there a way, say a week after I've done a session, to go back to the same target ID using my email and bring up the photos that I've already judged before, but just to kind of re-look at it again? Or do I have to submit a whole new transcript each time to get in to see the target photos? Do you know?
If you have not made a submission, okay, then you can go back. You need to put in your transcript again, but you will always get the same two targets. You'll get the same coordinate and the same two possible targets.
Oh, okay, but I will have to put in the same transcript again if I already did it before.
Yes, you really should. And if you have judged it, okay, then you cannot go back. Your first judgment is your final judgment. So
okay.
you can go back and see them, but you will not be able to put in another judgment.
Oh, okay, so I couldn't do two sections for the same event.
For the same coordinate. That is correct.
Okay, got you.
But if you see, that's why we have two different groups possible on each day. So you would have two different coordinates and two different judgments.
For the same event?
For the same event.
Got you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's how that happens. Okay, so hopefully you've got this idea, because what I want to do now is show you stuff which a group manager has access to make a group prediction. But I would tell you the group prediction is the least important from your perspective in terms of becoming and maintaining Precog Pro. All you care about is what you do. And just like you had one example with Lila, where she was the only one that went in the correct direction, there were 3 people who went in the incorrect direction. I believe you need to trust yourself. You should always go when you feel strongly. If you wager, and always wager wisely, you should trust yourself. Okay, and group prediction. No, so this is the today's tasks. I can go back to past tasks. Oh, we have, oh, a lot of you. Let me make sure I did this right. Do 9-4. Okay, so I have 4 people who have submitted, and let's look at the transcripts of at least some of them. I see a 5, and of course I like to look at the high one, so that was Honeycheck. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but let me find it. Here you are. Okay, so this would be, this gets a little awkward, but while the rest of you are doing things it's worth doing, this is Honeycheck's transcript. Okay, good. Sometimes I have to rotate them. I don't have to rotate this one. And let me put, okay. And now let me go back and get, oh, okay, I'm only going to put up the one that you said, which was side 1. Okay, Honeycheck, hopefully you're watching this and make sure I don't make any mistakes. I do does every now and then, actually too often. Okay, here's a, that would be photo side A, which you believed it was. There you go. Okay, so I think I can move this here. Oh, look at that. Okay. There we go. Oh my, I say that looks a lot like a tank. Why don't you describe this and your feelings while you were doing? I think that'll help others who are listening. You're here, can you turn on your mic? Or did you have to leave, which happens? Are you still here? Okay, possibly not. But nevertheless, she gave this a 5. And let's look at it and see if I agree. This certainly has a sense of a big sort of tank. Man-made. There's natural here in the background. I don't see any yellow. I definitely see sandy. Soft, maybe the people would be considered soft. This is another case where you'd love to see how she judged it. Rusty, not clear. Round, yeah, the tires are round. Sharp, maybe the top of the flags. Old, I don't know. Broken, doesn't look like it. Quiet, I don't think so. Wavy. Frightening, that's interesting. That is probably okay here, and the sketch is very good. So I'd have to go through Joe's complete thing, but I say in terms of a fig, motion and energy, the sketch is really good. It's hard at first blush to quarrel with the 5. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, Anastasia, you are here. You got a different name in there. Anyway, well done. Well done. So let me get rid of that one. Get rid of this one. Okay. So let's look. We got all the others are passes. Oh no, here's a 4. Okay, let's look at a 4. And it's in the other direction, but well, let's not worry about that now. This is anti-Cormier. Okay, so you got side 2. Let's first look at your transcript. Ah, nice. And then let's go back here. More. Your side 2. More. So that's photo site B. And you've got the building. So, okay, AOLs. I ignore AOLs unless they're right, and then I give them good credit. But I don't count them in the total. AOLs, the fact that you recognize it as such sets it apart, unless it's right. Sandy, gritty, metal. I guess there's some metal there. Tan for sure. Sunny, yeah, bright blue, lots of blue. I don't think I would call that red, yellow, green. I don't see any of that. Salt, smoke, smell. Boxwood, boom. Okay, Andy. Is that Andy? Andy C. Could we talk about this one? You gave it a 4. I don't know if you used Joe's technique. My first look at this would question that just because I just don't see a lot in here that matches. I don't see any sense of buildings. So I'd like to understand your logic, which may in fact override my first impression. Depression. Okay, and often, especially newbies, there's a tendency to overrank just because you want to be right. There's a lot of discipline involved in long-term ARV. Okay, let me see if there are any new people here. I'll get rid of this one. And there's your equation.
Marty, can I ask a question?
Sure, and let me just see if, go ahead.
How do I use the formula you describe when I want to rate the diagram, like the one you showed of the tank? You know, how much, how many points, or is it just one?
That's part of the judgment. Sometimes the sketches like that one are complex enough that I almost think of them as multiple sketches, but that's me. You know what I'm saying? You as a judge need to work that out, but that had multiple elements. It had the body,
Yes.
it had the wheels. I would have given that at least 2 big A's.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that's a judgment call.
Yeah, that's up to each. That's why so much of this, it's all about you, which is one of the marvelous things about this. You know, yeah. But that one is a perfect example, and I'm glad you pointed it out, where I would have given that at least 2 ways, for the roundness and then for the body.
All right, thanks.
Yeah. Okay, let's see if we have more here. Okay. Okay, we didn't do Anita yet, and she gave us a 5. So let's look at yours, Anita, and then I think most people should be getting close to being done. Or not, I don't know, we'll see. But let's look at one more. You know, you're getting a feeling, I hope, of you know, how people do it, or when they judge how they're doing it. Now notice this one is a 5 and a 4. That's interesting. So they're close. But Anita went with the 5. Let's go look at them. So you're down here. Get it back up here. The 5 is side 1. So first, let's get your transcript. I will rotate it. First, I have to capture it. Okay, I'm doing this, giving the rest of you time to finish yours, and then we'll go into a group prediction. But you can see these are good examples for your newbies. You can see everybody's doing it a little bit different, and that's fine. They learn it in different ways. What comes into them comes in different ways. Some people take courses, so they do it the way they were taught. There's a whole debate on how much courses help. Joe McMonagle tends to do his free farm, one page, sometimes 2. Okay, so what I'm looking for here is rotate, and I think clockwise. Yes. Okay. I don't know if I can make that bigger. Oh, I know how to make it bigger. I'll make it bigger this way. Resize. Image. Okay, so let's put that one over there. God, that looks upside down still. No, it's got. That is upside down. Ah. Yes, I think I could read that now. And then let's go back here. and get your picture, which was 1. Okay, that wasn't as easy as I would have liked, but here we have them. Okay, Anita, do you want to just talk about this one a little bit? I can see the circle, but you have a vehicle. You know, what got you to make this a 5? Did you use Joe's technique? Anita, you want to talk to us about this or not? If you don't, that's fine. Okay, you don't. I'm looking at it and let me see what I see. I don't see green. Yeah, red, of course. Yellow, brown. Dry, yeah. Rough, maybe. No crumbly. Slippery. Yeah. You know, some of these where you're not sure, that's when you give it little A's. Warm, I don't know. Whiffy, smoky. You know, if there's a no, I don't know, and no way to tell, you don't count it in the total and you don't give it either an A or B. At least some people do that. Warm and cold. I don't know what that means. People. Oh, yeah. Lots of people inside. I can see the people in there. Certainly there are sounds. No grass. Children. I don't know. Outside. Excitement. Well, yeah. And this. Okay, well, I'm just giving you my feeling without going through the full Joe McMonagle approach. I don't think this would get up to a 5. And that's one of the reasons he wants you to do it. He wants you to go over every one of these with the A and B, do the arithmetic. Maybe it seems like it takes longer than just looking at, oh, I got people, so it must be good. I got this, it must be good. Because if you get like a low A-B count, it says you got a lot of extraneous stuff, which meant you might not have been right at this target psychically. So that's my feeling. Anita, I really recommend you try, you know, when you have a little more time at your home, try the McMonagle system. And Precog pros must agree to do that. I mean, I think it's good for everybody, but if you want to be a Precog pro, you need to agree to do that. That's how important I feel it is, because then we get uniformity and you do it on both of them. Some people have right now always give me zeros. They say, oh, it must be this one. They give me a number, the other one's 0. I've never seen anybody do that and last very long well. You really need to do them both. You and your sub need to get used to doing them both. If you do self-judging or your independent judge does that. Okay. So now it is time. I think is anybody else still judging?
Marty,
Uh-huh.
my computer went to sleep when I was submitting my CRs, and I can't tell. I know.
Yeah, I can give it to you again and you can bring it up. Why don't you tell me which way it was as part of the judging?
Well, it's a pass.
No. Tell me what your ranking was, side 1 or side 2, and what the CR is. So when I do, I'm going to do the group judging now.
I did site. Well, you mean photo site A? I gave it a 2.5, and
Photo
B,
site.
I gave it a 3.
Oh, so you passed.
I did pass.
Okay.
But I want to submit. Well, I guess it doesn't matter if I submit it or not.
It does, because then you get to do a feedback. Yeah. No, you should always.
Yes, that's right.
So you get to do a feedback.
That's right.
So I'll put it in the box again. Hopefully you'll be able to do that. But that won't affect the next step, which is, see, I get to see everybody. And Lila was a pass, so that doesn't change anything because I ignore passes as a group judge. So let me look at these now, and you can look at them too. If you were judging as a group, so let me see what I have. I'm going to make just a little table here. Side 1, side 2. Okay, so for side 1, I've got a 5 and a 0. I hope that was with Joe. Here is, okay, and that's no, this is yes. The next one I have a 3.5 and a 4, and that's for side 2. And because that's close, I'm not going to count it. Here is a 5 and a 4 for side 1. That's pretty close. I'm going to give it a half a point. Here is a 1. So we used to have people do 2. That's why these numbers are strange. But there's CR. She had a CR of 1 and a CR of 4. So that was side 2. The next one is for why don't I see? Oh, there it is, a 3 and a 4. Again, those are close. I'm only going to count that as a half. And then here we have a 0 and a 4. And here we have a pass. And here is a 2.5 and a 3.5. Count that as a half. And then the last one I have is a pass. Okay, so using my technique here, I've got 1.5 points on side 1 and 1.5, 2.5, 3 points on side 2. Well, oh no, I did that wrong. I have 1.5, right. Well, 1.5 versus 3, and there were a lot of people who were partial. Yeah, I'm going to do it. Again, the group is not that important. It's your experience that was important. And under these circumstances, it's not as good as when you're at home by yourself. But some of these I would have turned into passes if I was home. Like there was one that was only 1/2 point apart. I think it was a 3.5 and a 4. I would have turned a 3.5 into a 4. And in the note box said PSA was really 3.5, PSB was 4. But because I believe that's too close, I passed. But nevertheless, it was higher for side 2 by 1.5 points the way I counted. So I'm going to go with side 2, which you can see here. The group person knows that's a yes. I have to remember, this is just group manager stuff. You guys don't have to worry about this at all. And there's no line. So this was a webinar with to say 1.5 points PSA. 2, 3.5, 3 points PSB. And that does it. And now this will be sent to everybody in the group. Because this is, in fact, let me just show it to you with my email. Because this is, if I can find my email, there it is. Prediction and line. So whatever group you're in, you will get the group prediction. So here the group prediction was yes. And again, I say if you happen to have a no and you had a really good session, you know, you got a 5 or a 6, and the other one was a 2, if you wanted to wager, you should go with yourself. You're telling your sub, I trust you. But nevertheless, I give a group prediction, and usually I say how many people went one way versus the other. Okay, so we now went over everything from the beginning. We then did feedback from a month ago, and we've now done a prediction, and each of you will get your feedback the first Wednesday of next month. And okay, so are there any more questions or any questions on that part? No, this, if you remember, the question does not have a line. Last month's question had a line. This question was, will it go up within the next month? So it's strictly an up or down. So it's a different kind of question. So at the beginning of today, it had some price, and then the question is, will it be up and down from there?
Marty, do you do any remote viewing yourself, or are you just managing other people?
I try to sneak some in every now and then, but I'm pretty darn busy. I'm doing judging for people. And so with my regular life, and I try to have a regular life with my family and all that, and friends, I rarely get to do some. I used to do more a while ago. So, and I've taken Lynn Buchanan's CRV beginning and intermediate.
All right. And you're pretty good?
I would not yet say I qualify as a Precog Pro, but close.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so I'm not a Joe McMonagle by any means. And it's funny, all the advice and stuff which I give, I wish I could put into play, but this advice comes from watching so many people. I must have, you know, judged and watched thousands of these by now, and seen people go wrong, and watched when they get dips and worked with them and figured out why and that sort of thing.
Do you believe in extended remote viewing?
Absolutely, for some people, yeah.
Oh.
In fact, I don't think she'd mind. Well, maybe I better not use her name, but yeah, there's somebody who I'm judging for that uses ERV, yeah. So I don't think the approach matters. You know, there's so many different approaches, and every now and then somebody will tell you, mine is so much better than everybody else's. I really don't believe that. You need to get an approach and learn the discipline to not only be honest with it, but to be honest with modifying it to suit you. Because when you get missing streaks, there's something to learn.
Right. But when they were doing this work in the military, they probably did a lot of statistical analysis on the different methods. Did they conclude which one was the best?
They did not do that. Ingo Swann taught a bunch of them to do CRV, but I know like Joe McMonagle doesn't use that technique. He starts with a nitty-gram, he uses the beginning of it, and then he just goes off and does his own thing, which over the years he's learned works best for him. So as far as I know, the person who's an expert on that is Smith. You might ask Paul Smith if they ever did that in the military.
Okay.
Or Lynn would know. But as far as I know, they never did comparisons. And there's always a big debate on whether you need to do something formal, or Russ Targ and others are big proponents. Actually, frankly, as I am, is yes, if you've been trained in something and you want to use it, use it. But if you haven't been trained, you really don't need that much training. You just need to be quiet and learn how to listen to your subconscious and set your left brain, AOL, intellect aside. That's the skill. And that's really, Russ Targ used to have guys from CIA who were non-believers. And the way he converted them is he'd have them do a remote viewing session, an outbounder remote viewing session.
Yeah.
They'd be totally blind and they didn't have any training.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Right. He would quiet them down. This is so important for all of you. I mean, he would just simply quiet them down, get them to say, yeah, you can do this. Clear your mind. You can do this. And then I don't know if at some point he said, just tell me what's in your mind. I don't know exactly how he switched. I should ask him about that. Or he waited for them. I think he talked to them for a while and then just said something like, tell me what comes to mind. Something as simple as that.
So that relates back to the intention, how important that is then. You can almost take somebody straight off the street and have them do it.
Oh, yeah, they do that all the time. And I've seen at my webinars some amazing examples of beginners. No training at all. It's called beginner's luck is a real thing. And that's because your chatter doesn't get in there yet. You don't know enough to chatter. It comes right from your sub.
Yeah, interesting.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Any other questions or comments? I just have a couple more slides here and we're done. So I could love you.
So should we email Nancy to get added to some more groups to do more predictions?
No, send it to me and I'll send it to Julie Beeman. You know what I can do? I can get her email. Send it to me. That'd be good because I'll also know that you're going to become active. Okay. And then I'll just forward it to her and she'll put you in the groups, okay?
Okay, thanks.
So send it to me directly. Now, in really big picture summary here, it's you who create your precognition. That's what's so marvelous about ARV. It really is all about you. You're the RVer. You're the feedbacker. You're doing this entanglement. This is, in a very real sense, precognitive telepathy. It's mind to mind. It happens to be your mind, but your mind is different when you're doing the feedback session than it is when you're doing the remote viewing. So, period. It really is precognitive telepathy, but it's really all about you and you learning how to listen and report and entangle with your subconscious mind. It happens to be 2 different times in linear time, but the information is out there. Now, target information is available to you from your subby. That's a friendly way of subconscious mind, of course. But you might want to think of it as a higher self, a guide. People look at this in different ways, and it just doesn't matter. It's for something that has more information than your normal day-to-day self has, because you don't need that normally in the physical world, and yet it is available to you, and you can bring that into your life. And then know this is at a very deep or high level, and just let the target info flow into your consciousness. It's like, it's more allowing than anything else. You know, it's that sort of subtle kind of thing. You're a witness when you're doing the remote viewing. And then trust yourself for taking appropriate actions to achieve your precog consciousness goals. I've never seen anybody who just gets into this and never does modifications. I always recommend, if you're going to modify little things. It's mostly modifications in your attitude, in how many passes do you do. Do you meditate with specific things in mind? You know, it becomes very personal. This is, and I hope you really do see it as, fun work. It's exploring your deep self. And I've done, and other teachers, and I'm sure most of you have done other reading on this, but I think this quote from Galileo is so true. You can't teach a man anything that's deep level stuff. You know, you can teach a person to do arithmetic, but we're talking deeper stuff than that. You cannot teach a man anything. You can only help him find it within himself. And so really, I send this with love back to you to do, and I hope really all of you become Precog pros, stay with your precognition and consciousness in general, because it will grow you in so many different ways. And then finally, all of this really does, and I wish for all of us, health, wealth, and wealth in the biggest sense of that word, which does include sharing, and use in a wise way health, wealth, and wisdom. So thank you all for coming, and I'm open for any final questions or comments. Okay. You see what I see? I'm just reading something that Anita wrote. It should pass, maybe, yes. Yeah, well, Anita, do work it out for yourself, but the guide is your hit rate. I mean, if whatever you're doing, and I don't care what I say or anyone else says, has got you up at the 70% level, don't change. Or maybe you change a little bit to get up even higher. But, you know, it's your hit rate curve that guides you. Any other comments, questions? Oh, Craig, did I miss your question? Okay. I didn't. Here's Craig's question about the line. In that group, what we were predicting was up or down for. Wait, hold on one second. I'm sorry. Up or down for the SPY stock. It's really an ETF, and the one was determined by the volatility. It gets real volatile. It could actually get higher than that. And on occasion, the volatility is so low that I'll actually make it a 0.5, and I have an equation for volatility. So yes, the line can be 0.5, or the line can be 2. Okay, well, I thank you all for coming, and let's see if I can. I'm going to end the meeting now, and keep precogging, and health, wealth, and wisdom to you all. Bye now.